Hey, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Come and take a seat with me. Today I'm going to be talking about my career, how I got started in interior design, how I got to where I am today, and where my business is going moving forward. So I just want to start by saying I'm so grateful for all of your positive comments on Instagram, on Facebook, and here on YouTube about my recent home renovation series. And so if you want to get caught up, definitely go check in the cards. Questions about career are questions I get quite a bit. And so I kind of want to just take you on literally a story. I want to tell you a story. So grab a cup of coffee and sit down with me. I'm going to tell you how I got started in the crazy world of interior design and lifestyle TV. And stay tuned to the end of this video because I really want to share with you where my career is going as I am making a pretty major shift in the next year. So I went to a performing arts high school in North York called Cardinal Carter. And when I was in high school, I was student council president. I was involved in a lot of shows and different initiatives. And so I spoke in front of the school and parents quite a bit. And there was a mom who went to, like a mom of a student at my high school who was a casting director. And she pulled me aside one day and said, "Lisa, you would be so good on TV." And I just remember being like, "What do you mean? Like, how is that a job?" Like, I really just thought that if you wanted to be on TV and get paid for it, you had to be like an actor or like a news anchor. I kind of didn't realize that there were other avenues in which, you could be a personality on TV. And so she put me in touch with a company called Tricon Films that started a show called Marriage Under Construction. And it was the most whirlwind experience where I designed a home for $30,000, including the kitchen, for a young couple. P.S. The wife on that show has become like crazy famous. She's currently on Blue Bloods and she's incredibly talented and so beautiful. And we've kept in touch over the years. I thought that show was going to be my summer job. Like literally, I thought that I was going to host a show on HGTV and then move on to my real career. I literally had no idea the doors that would be opened for me as a result of hosting a show on a national network that ended up getting picked up in like 57 countries. So what happened was I finished the show and I got married, and they aired a complete marathon of Marriage Under Construction while I was on my honeymoon. And I got back from my honeymoon to an inbox full of requests of, "Can you come and decorate my house, and what do you charge for services?" I had no idea what I was doing, like legit no idea. And I basically was like, "Oh, come up with an hourly rate, like what is it?" And I think I was charging like $25 an hour. And I basically took on any and all projects, and I kind of just went for it and fell on my face many times. One of the biggest lessons I learned in those early years was that you can't be all things to all people, and I was 100% trying to be. But I really enjoyed those first few years in the sense of it helped me to clarify what kind of projects did I really like, what did I not like. I always sort of give this advice to people who are interested in starting their own interior design career. You've got to pick a niche, or you've got to pick some kind of specialty that you are sort of known for, because it's really difficult, I think, to attract the right kind of client when you're trying to be all things to all people. And so to narrow down and really like hone in on a target market is really important. But what's interesting is that you sometimes can't realize what that target market is unless you try out a whole bunch of different projects. So all the while building my public face of my business, my interior design business, and working with clients, I was also building a career as a production designer for television shows. And will you do me a favor as you're listening to this? Just let me know in the comments below if you are currently an interior designer or a decorator or a stylist, or if you are a student who is studying interior design and wants to get into this business. I'm really curious where people are coming from. And if this is content that's interesting to you, I can definitely create some more videos. So let me know in the comments below. I worked on a show called For Rent. I worked on a show called Beautiful People. I worked on a show called Green Force, The Expendables, as well as Buying and Selling with the Property Brothers. And I have to say that I absolutely loved my time in production design for TV. It was fast paced. It brought me all over the city. It took me to cities like Atlanta. And I always recommend that getting aligned with a show like this, like an HGTV show or a W Network show, what have you, is a great place to volunteer your time. time. You do need to know the right people. And you can certainly message me. I can be one of those people. But it's an amazing exposure to a vast number of projects. Typically in a season, you're filming 13 to 26 episodes depending, and you get to see in a very short amount of time, like a 4 to 6 month window of time, an extraordinary amount of projects. I often say it's like my formal design training. That's where I kind of went to school, so to speak. I don't have formal training in interior design, and that is honestly an invaluable place to learn. So for about 8 years, I was working in the world of residential interior design and a little bit of commercial, working with clients one-on-one privately in their homes, and then at the same time doing production design for TV, which would literally take over my life for, you know, a quarter or half of the year, kind of working on seasons and different shows. At the exact same time as doing all of that, I was growing my family basically at the same rate. As quickly as my business grew, as quickly as my reputation and my brand grew in the Canadian interior design scene, my family grew just as fast. I have basically had a child every 18 months for the last 9 years. And for a while, I was able to do both with success and a relative amount of mental health. And if you come back next week, I'm going to spill my guts about how I do it all. And spoiler alert, I don't do it all personally. Everything gets done, but I personally don't do it. So come back next week, because that's when I'm really gonna literally spill my guts about what this whole notion of doing it all means. But there came a massive turning point, and I have shared in a video that I'll link for you in the cards. I call it my minivan meltdown, where it just became too much. And I remember so clearly the day when I realized that I was failing at everything. Like, oh my word, like I could not keep up with the demands of 4 young small kids and a marriage. And I could not keep up with the demands of a growing business as an entrepreneur. And I just remember feeling like I was failing at literally everything. When I wasn't working, I was failing my family. When I was spending time with my family, I was letting all my clients down. And it literally just was this vicious cycle of failing, guilt, exhausted. I remember being at a cottage. I've told this story before, but being at a cottage, and we were doing this exercise that Michael Hyatt created called Best Year Ever. And you had to basically describe your last year in a movie genre, and then what was the title of the movie. And I was so excited because it was a year that I had had the most financial success, I was working with the best people in the industry. I was, being written up in all kinds of magazines and all these things. And I just remember I was like, this is like the best year ever. I was so excited. I asked my husband, what was your genre? Like how was your year? And he literally turned to me and said, my genre is horror, and the title of my movie is Vice Grip. I could not believe how opposite our experiences were, where I was enjoying all of this financial success, career success, and he was feeling literally completely the opposite. And I realized that without really knowing it, I had put work as the most important thing in my life, at the detriment of my marriage and my kids. So that, combined with my minivan meltdown story, were huge turning points in realizing there's got to be another way. So my minivan meltdown happened when I brought Rose home from the hospital, my 4th child, and she's now 4. So for the last 4 years, I've been really working to engineer my business in a totally different way, and I want to share with you how I've done that. In my interior design business, I worked with my friend Lisa Ferguson of 1000 Watt Life. And basically she's a strength finder expert. She took my strengths and we reverse engineered my business around my strengths. And we realized I am really good at giving people a plan and then giving them a whole bunch of encouragement and excitement and pushing them forward to now go execute the plan themselves. And that's the route I decided to take much more full on in the last basically like 2 to 4-ish years of my business, where I really leaned into 2-hour interior design consultations. And that has made the world of difference in my interior design business. I'm able to work with clients in a limited amount of time. I'm able to inspire them, give them the strategy, give them the tools they need, show them how to get started, and then they're able to go on their own and implement the project themselves. Let me tell you, I did not think that this would work. I remember just thinking, nobody is gonna want this. People want things done for them. But I cannot tell you how wrong I was. Here's another great business learning lesson. When you are able to identify the correct target market and then speak really clearly and communicate super clearly what they need and how you help them to solve the problem, you can find immense success. But that is the key, identifying the target market and then super clearly and quickly explaining how you solve a problem in their life. There is great alignment when that happens. But then I hit yet another turning point in my career, and that is where now I'd like to share with you the trajectory of where I'm going. So I was really happy with how the 2-hour design consultations were working. So primarily I was focused on those, and then to keep my sort of like love of actually creating spaces alive, I was also working with brands on sponsored makeovers. So it was a kind of a nice balance. I would do, a few sponsored makeovers a year. I would do a whole bunch of 2-hour consultations. And then I stumbled upon a program called B School by Marie Forleo. And it was really interesting because I took her program sort of with the mindset that I was going to make my interior design business amazing. And in this program, she has you answer a whole bunch of questions that are really deep and really meaningful. Things like, what do you fight for? What do you wish everyone knew? What are things that really bother you and keep you up at night? She had us answer all these questions. And it was so weird and interesting because I sat there on my computer and I just remember it was like I was boring a hole into the keys. Like I just could not type fast enough. But what was very interesting was the questions like, what keeps you up at night? What do you fight for? My responses had nothing to do with interior design. They had everything to do with motherhood and how you could have a life in which you've followed your dreams and your passions, but not at the sacrifice of your family. And I just remember sitting there looking at my responses being like, oh my goodness, like there's something in here, there's something in me that I've not fully like fleshed out or allowed to speak. Like I haven't given this thing that clearly is so important to me a voice. It really was like a good 4-year plus process of getting comfortable with who I am, literally. Sharing the things that I stand for, sharing the things that I do not stand for, and being okay that people weren't gonna like me for it. I have to be like super clear about this. Not everybody is gonna like you, and that's okay. But that took me forever to learn. Oh boy. I unpack a lot of these things in my book that's coming out next year called The Possibility Mom, how you get clear on why you do what you do, how you get clear on your priorities. But that's really like has been the secret for me, is as soon as I got clear on why am I doing what am I doing? Why am I so open to have a bunch of kids? Why am I happy to make my interior design business look radically different from everyone else's interior design business? Why do I want to record YouTube videos? As soon as I got clear on why I was doing the things that I was doing, that is when everything changed, and it was like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I had the freedom to just do what I wanted to do and not worry about what people were gonna think. I think we spend so much time, especially where our careers are concerned, worrying about what other people are going to think of us, especially in today's online world where you post a picture and you can get instant feedback, where you can compare yourself against people via metrics like how many followers they have. Do you know how exhausting that is to constantly look and see how something is performing? But what's tricky is you have to be clear on what is important to you. And I think that is a process that I hope my book helps people do. But that's a process that also takes some time. So what is next for me? Where is all of this like culminating to? So I have really drastically changed the way I spend my time. I think the major changes happened in the last 2 years. And basically it started to look like this. I would say 2 years ago, I was still doing like 80% of my time was interior design, and 20% of my time was starting to do more mom-based content, things like YouTube, things like Instagram, things like developing resources on my blog for moms. So I'm now going to be spending 80% of my time helping moms design their lives around what matters most to them, and 20% of my time in my interior design business. I'm still going to keep up the 2-hour consultations and the sponsored makeovers. And now how you can work with me in a more maximized capacity is in my online coaching programs and courses. And all of this is going to be rolling out in the next few months. If you've been following me for a while, you know I do a lot of content on this channel around motherhood and work-life balance. But you're going to start seeing more free content from me on how to literally figure out your priorities. How do you follow your goals and your dreams and your passions, but not at the expense of your family? How do you literally balance it all, juggle all the things that a mom has to juggle without being completely stressed out, feeling completely guilty, and feeling completely exhausted all the time? That is what I'm now going to spend 80% of my time in, and I'm just so excited for you to come along for that journey. I have a heart for moms following their dreams and designing their lives so that they're not feeling constantly overwhelmed and exhausted. There was a time when I was so knee-deep in like guilt and exhaustion and feeling like an absolute failure. And I can now confidently say that you don't need to stay there forever. That a life as a mom can be fulfilling, can feel amazing. It does not feel like it is in survival mode all the time. I was there, and through so much trial and error, figured out another way, and I'm just so excited to share my unique experiences, the very difficult times of trial that I went through in my marriage, especially to get me where I am today, to hopefully help you skip a few of those steps. Let's get you past some of the heartache and get you into living a life that is full of happiness, joy, and freedom. The freedom that comes when you are doing what you were meant to do on this planet. If you'd like to come along with me on this journey, and like I said, I'm going to be explaining it all in the next few months. There's going to be ways you can work with me one-on-one. There's going to be ways you can take online courses with me. There's going to be ways you can visit me in my home for community experiences. If you want to come here in real life and you're in the Greater Toronto area, I'm going to have a whole, lots of different ways that you can work with me. I would invite you to click the link below and join my mailing list. And I've got a really fun special download for you to help you get started in designing a life around what matters most to you. So click in the link below, which will get you on my mailing list. And that way you can know when my book is coming out and when these courses start coming out, and we can just stay in touch, and I can talk with you more specifically on mom-based content. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I would love for you to give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and that little bell beside so you can not miss a single video. And come back next week because I am spilling my guts, like I said, about how I actually do it all. And until then, cheers to designing your beautiful life.